did I just kill a man? Forgive me, Father.
Forgive Me Father 2 is a completely different beast compared to the first game. It's still a Lovecraftian boomer shooter with a comic book aesthetic, but nearly every aspect of the game has been reworked. But let's start from the beginning. The story picks up right where the first game left off. You play as the priest, who now finds himself in an insane asylum. What exactly happened in the first game is slowly revealed through cryptic notes you find along the way, but even then, it's hard to pin down what is real. Did the protagonist lose his mind and go on a rampage, slaughtering innocent townsfolk, or were we truly fighting occult forces, monsters, and the minions of ancient gods? Or maybe both are true? Could it be that the main character fell under the influence of some incomprehensible cosmic force, slowly unraveling mentally? It's hard to say for sure. What we do know is that he's now locked away in psychiatric facility. The good news, he's not alone. The bad news, his new companion is the voice in his own head.
Why aren't these visions going away? I'm here, don't you worry. Don't give up, even when he is lurking in them shadows.
This odd duo will frequently wax poetic about forbidden knowledge, ancient places that were never meant to be discovered, dimensions beyond human comprehension. You get the idea. At first, these quotes feel like fun little nods to Lovecraft and, dare I say, even our dear old friend Edgar Allan Poe, but after a while they start to wear thin. I mean, come on, every location from the basement of the asylum to some cosmic ancient city seems to trigger another grandpa-style ramble about how we shouldn't be here.
And control rarely go hand in hand. What was meant to serve progress now serves as a tool of madness. In the frozen wastelands, the obsession with acquiring knowledge can easily turn into madness. This place was like a window into the universe, but also a void that we're not able to understand.
The voice also tries to guide the priest towards some kind of inner revelation tied to his past, but the game never actually explains what that is. You feel like you're being nudged toward a grand conclusion, a climax, but every time it leaves you with only foggy hints, vague suggestions and incomplete thoughts. And honestly, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I actually appreciate it when a game doesn't spoon-feed you every detail, and instead gives you room to investigate and piece things together on your own. But here it just felt, I don't know, strange, especially because this time around the story clearly got more attention than in the first game. For example, story-related notes used to be more like collectibles, scattered generously around the levels but not particularly informative. Now, they've gone for quality over quantity. There are fewer notes, but they're much more meaningful. I generally enjoyed reading through them. Thanks to this, I learned that the journalist from the first game was indeed real. She was investigating something shady going on in Pastisville. There was a mayor, possibly involved in some mysterious cult, and some horrible tragedy went down in the local hotel. Was it lone psychopath behind it all, or was some dark force involved? Even if you gather every last piece of available information, you'll never get clear, definitive answers to those burning questions. To sum up this little rant about the story, let's be honest, not the most vital part of retro shooter, I'll say this. I like the idea of an unreliable narrator. I like that the game leaves room for interpretation, but I still felt a bit unsatisfied. I wish there had been just one more hint, maybe a bit of environmental storytelling, or an extra note, or a short cutscene, something that could have shed a bit more light on what's really going on. And hey, if you think I just missed something obvious, let me know in the comments, I'd love to talk about the story with you. At the same time, I really enjoyed the game's sense of humor. Every now and then you'll stumble upon amusing posters like "Join our cult, we have Fruit Friday", "Cthulhu needs you", or my personal favorite, "Try our new product, probably sardines. We're not sure what it is, but it tastes really good", which honestly feels like my personal motto when trying new food while traveling. Just like the first game, Forgive Me Father 2 looks absolutely fantastic. The hand-drawn textures, the enemies, the weapons, everything oozes the creativity and style. Visually, it's a treat. The environments are packed with memorable vistas, and the visual effects do a great job of immersing you in the game's eerie world. As you push through the docks, a thick sea fog curls around you, lit by the cold glow of the moon or warmer shimmer of old-fashioned street lamps. When I stepped into the cathedral grounds, I couldn't help but stop for a few moments just to admire the sheer scale of the place. It's genuinely awe-inspiring. At one point I even got a bit of Bioshock vibe while wandering through the botanical garden. Maybe it was a cartoonish visual, or maybe it's a clear influence of Art Deco design throughout the game, but many locations felt pleasantly familiar. What really impressed me though was the variety of locations. You won't get bored wandering through the same looking corridors. The game constantly throws new and atmospheric environments at you. You'll explore grim city streets, flooded subway stations, creepy asylum basements, and even find yourself crawling through World War I trenches. You'll go full Arthur Gordon Pym and head to the Arctic, only to end up treasure hunting in a sun-scorched desert tomb. And that's not even mentioning the completely insane endgame locations. I'd love to talk about them, but I won't spoil it for you. Trust me, they're worth experiencing blind. The monster design hasn't strayed far from the first game, and I'm totally fine with that. It's hard to improve on something that already works so well. That said, there are some new enemy types and cultists added in, and a few returning monsters got updated skins. You'll still run into familiar horrors like the wretches who attack you with severed heads. My personal favorite is the Chthonic Liquidators with their gas mask tentacle faces, the crabmen firing RPGs at you, and the whole buffet of other creepy, toothy, shapeless abominations. Boss design, however, was a bit of a letdown for me this time. Compared to the first game, the bosses here feel a little uninspired, both in terms of gameplay mechanics and visual design. I was honestly expecting something more bizarre, more powerful, more otherworldly. The only one I kinda liked was the Path of Enlightenment boss. Maybe because the game gives you a proper look at him before the fight kicks off. And the actual battle itself, pretty fun. There's also a neat option in the settings where you can turn on Noir mode, which renders the entire game in black, white and red. It's a cool visual twist, definitely something to save for a new Game Plus run. Okay, let's talk about the music. I don't think you'll find yourself running to add any of the tracks to your personal playlist, but the soundtrack gets the job done and it does it well. There's ambient music that plays as you explore the environments, and it nails the creepy, unsettling atmosphere. Sometimes it just helps set the mood of the location, making everything feel off in just the right way. Arena fights are once again backed by heavy guitar riffs. I've seen a fair number of people saying the metal soundtrack doesn't quite fit the early 20th century setting, but I don't really agree. Mowing down hordes of eldritch horrors in a fountain of blood absolutely can go hand in hand with a crunchy riff or two, even in a post-Victorian nightmare world. Sound design overall is a top-notch. One thing I really like is how you can actually identify what kind of enemy is nearby, just by the sound they make. It's a subtle but really satisfying touch. Like when you're creeping through a dark basement and you hear this unholy growl mixed with mechanical wiring echoing from the far end of the hallway. Yeah, that's your cue that Hollow Hunter is waiting around the corner, lining up a brutal laser shot just for you. Or maybe mid-fight, you hear a faint beeping in the background. Trust me, you're gonna want to track down and eliminate that phantom immediately. These guys are dangerous. They're completely invulnerable while moving and can only be hit when they're stopped to fire a homing magical blast right at your face. Some enemies just won me over because of the weird fun noises they make, like the squatter, who launches gooey projectiles while making hilarious wet splat sounds. Or the tiny dimensional leapers, who honestly sound like minions from Despicable Me. Let's head back to the clinic, your main hub in the game. Here you've got your own cozy little room, where the protagonist receives lovely heartwarming letters from a dear friend, or maybe from himself, reflecting on specific levels and life events connected to them. Right across from your room sits our good old friend, the elderly man who acted as a checkpoint marker in the first game. In the sequel though, he'll only be waiting for you at the end of each level. The clinic has several departments. In one, you can replay previously completed missions, or rematch the bosses you already defeated. Out in the courtyard, you can try your hands at the clinic version of baseball. I'll be honest, I have no idea if it actually unlocks anything. I managed to rack up around 1000 points before I got bored and moved on. In the main hall, surrounded by disturbingly cheerful looking patients, you'll find the storyboard, where you can read through all the notes and documents you've uncovered during your playthrough. Go a little deeper into the main corridor and you'll come to the mission doors. The game has 5 chapters total, each consisting of anywhere from 3 to 5 missions. Once you finish chapter 1, you'll unlock a new room in the clinic, which serves as a branching hub leading to the remaining chapters. Now, despite what that branching might suggest, the game is pretty linear overall. After chapter 1, you do get to choose between paths like trenches or university, but the choices only affects the order in which you tackle them. You'll still play through all chapters eventually. The clinic also houses 2 kiosks, where you can purchase new weapons, and Dark Tome effects, which replace the artifacts from the first game. Let's talk about weapons first. As you progress through the levels, you'll collect tokens, which you can spend in the store to unlock new weapons. There are 6 weapon categories, each featuring 4 variants: melee, pistol, shotgun, rifle, explosive, and exotic. You can only carry 1 weapon from each category at a time. You're free to unlock them in any order, but I highly recommend reading the descriptions carefully before buying. Just because something's far to the right on the list doesn't mean it's most powerful. Each weapon behaves differently, so it's important to build a loadout that fits your personal playstyle. One of Forgive Me Father's biggest calling cards, besides the hand-drawn enemies and environments, is the weapon design. Not only do they look amazing and creatively bizarre, but now there's also reloading, a feature that wasn't in the first game. This changes the gameplay in 2 important ways. The reload animations are pure eye candy. You've probably seen a bunch of clips on YouTube Shorts, but trust me, seeing them in action is a treat. And second, it seriously impacts the pace of combat. The game is fast, and you'll often find yourself with no time to reload. In those moments you'll need to switch weapons on the fly, to keep up the pressure, carve out a few seconds of breathing room, and reload when it's safe. This small mechanic makes the game more challenging, but it also encourages you to experiment with your arsenal, and there's a lot of fun to be had doing just that. Now let's be honest for a moment. How often do you actually use melee weapons in shooters? Usually it's a last resort or for smashing objects, but here I found myself using melee way more often. For example, there's Nasty Lenny, a brutal melee weapon that curses enemies, dealing damage over time, and when their HP hits 0, boom, they explode, damaging others nearby. As for pistols, beyond your standard revolver and handgun, there are 2 absolutely wild choices. First one, the Blood Pumper, a grotesque weapon that looks like an organic heart. You pump blood into it, and it blasts it back out in a devastating short-range shot. It's gnarly and awesome. Second one is the Eternal Fish. Imagine if an Uzi were a strange, majestic fish on a leash. This little beast can fire off dozens of rounds in seconds, turning your enemies into a red mist. Now, I never thought I'd say this, but I ditched the classic double-barrel shotgun in favor of caliber rifle. It's not great at close range, so I relied on the blood pumper for that, but it's brilliant for headshots at medium and long distances. And the design? It's a bolt-action rifle with an octopus perched on top. When you reload, you toss the old octopus and slap a new one, and I love it. In the rifle category, I mostly use the Eldritch Grasper, a crab-themed minigun. It takes a while to reload and spin up, but once it's going, it's absolutely mows down groups of enemies, and it's great for tougher foes too. The grenade and rocket launchers are solid, dependable tools of destruction, but I leaned more towards the mortar, a chitin-covered creature that deals heavy AoE damage and really shines in open arenas. The only downside is its relatively short range. Now I'll admit it, I didn't spend much time with the exotic weapons, none of them felt particularly game-changing or especially useful in combat. The obelisk is fine, it's a cool looking gun that works like a high-powered sniper rifle and can pierce through multiple enemies, but the slight delay before each shot kinda turned me off. I also briefly tried the laser gun, which seems to have carried over from the first game where it was an upgrade for the Tome gun, and the flamethrower, which while very cool looking with its stylized fire sprites, ended up being more of a hindrance. It totally wrecks your visibility in hectic fights. Still, I appreciate the small detail that the fire casts light in dark areas. Neat touch. Speaking of things I didn't quite vibe with, let's talk about the Dark Tome effects. Compared to the artifacts from the first game, this system feels like a bit of a step back. You can purchase both active and passive effects from kiosks in the clinic, but there's a catch, you can only equip 3 total, regardless of the type. Active effects grants you temporarily abilities that cost portion of madness meter to use during gameplay. For example, Mist lowers enemy accuracy and can make them miss like they're stormtroopers from Star Wars. Electrocution spawns electric orbs when you kill enemies, zapping those nearby, pretty useful for clearing the large crowds. There are others too, like buffs to fire rate or reload speed, or effects that reflect damage back to enemies. But honestly, the only one I relied on heavily was lifesteal. It's pretty simple, deal damage, get health back. On higher difficulties, this thing is an absolute must-have. Trust me, this one is not optional. Passive effects, as the name suggests, are always active and don't require activation. There is a good variety, some convert overhealing into armor, others extend the duration of active abilities, and then there are some that just increase fire rate or reload speed for certain weapon types, which frankly feel a bit pointless. The only passive effects that actually felt essential were the ones that increase your max health. Without those and lifesteal, the game can feel brutally hard. The high difficulty combined with the limited loadout of just 3 effects made most options feel irrelevant. I didn't even really start experimenting until late in the game, when I picked a passive that massively boosted my health but made healing less effective. Even then, I didn't fully explore the system until New Game Plus. There are a lot of effects, sure, but they're mostly boring. They exist not to make the game more fun, like the artifacts did in the first game, but more to just help you survive it. Now it makes sense to talk about the gameplay as a whole. If I had to sum up the experience, it'd be harder, better, faster, stronger, but mostly harder. Much harder. This game is way more difficult. It's the kind of difficulty where you're shoved into a tight corridor and bombarded with monsters that want to tear apart your flesh, your mind, and your very soul, barehanded with claws, guns, grenades. They'll tickle you to death with their tentacles or hypnotize you with their deranged, twitchy stares, until your palms are sweaty and your eyes start twitching. At least that's how it feels during the first 2 chapters on higher difficulty settings. If you took my earlier advice and invested in health upgrades, things do get a bit more manageable later on. Eventually you'll be able to indulge in a bit more reckless bloodshed, without stressing over every single firefight. Level design has improved a lot. If the first game felt more like Wolfenstein 3D, The sequel is definitely leaning closer to Doom. Maps are bigger, more complex, and less linear. You're not just picking around the corners and taking peek shots, you're strafing in wide arcs, keeping your momentum, dodging death by inches. That said, you'll still get thrown into tight claustrophobic rooms for some truly intense encounters. The combat is fast-paced and meaty, and the gameplay loop feels well balanced. You'll go from light skirmishes during exploration, to mid-intensity brawls, and then to full-on sweaty arena fights, where every shot, every health pack, and every ability counts. As usual, you'll be hunting for color-coded keys to unlock respective doors, uncovering secrets, and solving simple puzzles to progress. The game also occasionally leans into horror territory, with dark, moody, claustrophobic levels that crank up the tension. I really love how they handle darkness and lighting in this one. In the first game you had to holster your weapon to use a flashlight, kind of like Doom 3. I actually like that mechanic, even though the game barely used it. I'm happy to report they didn't play it safe this time. They borrowed a fantastic idea from another great horror game, Amnesia: The Bunker, and gave us dynamo-powered flashlight. Yes, you have to manually crank it up. There are a lot more dark areas in this game, and you'll be actively recharging your flashlight to see who or what is hiding in the shadows, waiting to strike. I've seen some people on Reddit complaining that it's annoying, but honestly, I loved it. And yes, there's New Game Plus. As before, the game gives you a ton of options to go wild on your second run. Want more challenge? Turn on Iron Man mode. You only get one life. You can also tweak all kinds of sliders, enemy health, damage dealt, damage received, item drops, you name it. Or maybe you just want to have fun, then turn on infinite health, infinite ammo, or even bottomless clips, so you never have to reload again. Let nothing stand in your way. Personally, I wish more developers gave players this kind of sandbox freedom in New Game Plus. It's a blast. I finished the game on hard difficulty. It took me 13 hours and infinite number of attempts, and at least a dozen existential crises. Just me standing in front of mirror asking, why are you doing this to yourself? Who are you trying to impress? And yet, I have to say it was cool and most importantly, a fair experience. Enemies aren't bullet sponges, they go down fast, but so do you. That means you always have to be on your toes, constantly moving, constantly shooting with precision. And yes, the game is absolutely beatable even on higher difficulties. I never felt like the game was unfair. There were no cheap death, no artificial difficulty. What I did feel was adrenaline, hype and pure joy, as I mowed down wave after wave of grotesque Lovecraftian monsters, bunny hopping across the battlefield, dodging a literal storm of bullets and madness. I wholeheartedly recommend this game if you enjoy old school shooters. My only advice, don't push yourself as hard as I did. I think the game is much more fun and enjoyable on normal difficulty. But in any case, this was Radio Nick, much love to all of you, hope you're doing great, and I'll see you in the next video.